My student fixed his early extension in just 1 month, and I'm going to show you how fixing your early extension is actually really quite easy to do if you follow this specific roadmap. It certainly isn't the hardest thing in the golf swing to fix. As you can see with my students here, we have fixed it at a fast rate with everyone, and let's show you how you do it. So here's the 3-step simple roadmap to be able to fix your early extension easily. So what are you going to do? First thing, you've got to identify and find your root cause reason to why you early extend. Because so many golfers out there aren't aware that early extension is in their golf swing to actually help them play golf. So we're going to get into that. 2, fixing the effect, or fixing, you could say, the visual of early extension. So this is what all golfers, when they have early extension, practice, but with no success. They just try to work on a drill that's an anti-early extension drill, and they get nowhere because they haven't done the first step, which is fix the reason why. So number 3 on the roadmap, and that is how you practice. This is so vitally important. You could have the info of the other 2 and get that nailed in, but if you don't practice properly, you're still not gonna be able to fix it. And this is exactly what my student who fixed his early extension in just 1 month exploited and did it perfectly. If you want to pick up one of my courses, now is the time, because I've got them all on sale. So this is for a limited time only, so make sure you act fast. So whether it's the ultimate guide to rotation, complete shallowing guide, or ultimate guide to fixing your over the top, all on sale now. So there is a link down description. Act fast, because it won't be on sale forever. So like we said, step 1 on the roadmap, fix your root cause reason to why you early extend. So like we said, this is something that's in your golf swing to actually, funnily enough, help you. But of course, as we know, early extension is something that is extremely timing based in the downswing. So, okay, we're gonna get to the 2 main ones that I see, root cause reasons of why people early extend. So number 1 that I see for golfers is they're starting their downswing with a vertical steep shaft. So this is a really good example of why we early extend. So if my shaft is coming down vertical, I have to get that club shaft shallowed coming into the golf ball, because if I maintain that steep shaft and rotate and stay in my posture, I'm just going to chop across the golf ball. My angle of attack is going to be too steep. I'm going to hit horrible, weak, swipey and low cut shots, maybe some really horrible pull ones too. To where what the body's going to do, it's going to early extend, where the pelvis will go forward, the upper body will move back, because look what happens to the golf club. It starts to pitch more behind. So you can see early extension is actually trying to help you shallow that golf club later. And then obviously when you're early extending, you can't then rotate. You're gonna have to stall and throw your hands and arms to go into it. So it's helping you, but it's still not a good way, a consistent way to fix that issue. So that's where a lot of golfers will have a steep shaft. They'll be working on their early extension with drills, and they'll find it almost impossible to do when they're not doing the drill, or they'll hit the ball worse when they do the early extension drill. So this is where those golfers would need to work and fix their steep shaft. So let's say it's a golfer who has their trail elbow start to work behind them in the downswing. So that internally rotated shoulder position, you can see that steepens the shaft. This golfer would have to work on very first bit on the roadmap to get that trail elbow working more in front of them. So that more external rotation of the shoulder, which will then shallow their golf club. That'll be them fixing the root cause reason to why that golfer might specifically lose their posture and early extend. And then they'll move on to the second stage of the roadmap. And before we get into that second stage, another reason that I see super common for golfers who early extend is they will be going back in their backswing and their pelvis gradually moves closer to the golf ball as they get up to the top of the swing. This is called losing your hip depth. So when we lose our hip depth and that pelvis gets closer to the golf ball in the backswing, we've got nothing else we can do in the downswing other than continue that movement going forward. Got to remember, the golf swing is one fluid movement. If you're doing something in this fashion, moving forward up to the top of the backswing, you're just going to continue to do it in the downswing. Your pelvis will continue to drive forward, and then you're going to have a bad time. You're going to early extend. So what that golfer would do, of course, is get the right hip moving back in the backswing. Feel like almost someone's pulling their right trouser pocket and pulling it back, getting their hips moving deeper, because then that's going to encourage them to keep their hips back in that downswing, staying in their better posture. So you have to fix the reason why, otherwise you're not going to fix it. So the second part of the roadmap, you've got to fix the visual, or the effect, you could say, of the early extension. So the actual movement of the pelvis going forward. So we're going to get into the practice part, which is what my student did really well, who fixed his early extension in a single month. Now, so many other of my students fix it in a time frame really, really fast. But while we're going to talk about this specific student, because he did everything perfectly. So everyone fixes their early extension when they follow this roadmap. So, okay, we know our root cause issue. Let's say we're the person who has their right hip move forward in the backswing. So this is working on the visual now. So we want to have that pelvis stay back. We want that upper body to flex down. We want to be in flexion, not extension. So we've worked on our root cause. So for my sake here, let's say it's my pelvis moving forward. So that'll be me pushing that hip back. And then from there, I really want to push, let's say, the chair back, for example. That's getting me in my posture. So doing a drill that really helps you stay in your posture. That is number 2 on the process. And that will really massively help you. But you have to fix and work on the reason why you early extend first. So that's why I can't stop saying this, because it's so important. And for students that send in videos to myself, every single one of them that early extends, they're not aware of what's actually causing them to early extend. And so many players get themselves in such a state thinking they're never going to ever fix their early extension when they don't know what's causing it. So only then can you do this second part, and that's work on an early extension drill. Now the third part of this roadmap, and that is practicing properly. No matter what you're working on the golf swing, you have to practice properly, and early extension you absolutely have to, because you will not improve if you don't. So that's where my student David comes into it. Now, made a video about him about 9 months ago, talking about what he did in his practice to fix his early extension, and it's such useful information. We're going to talk about him again. Such a brilliant case of doing everything perfectly when it comes to practice. So, okay, we know, let's say you're a golfer, we know the root cause reason, we know the effect. How are we going to go about practicing those efficiently? So this is where you need to, 1, get into exaggeration practice. You need to get into slower swings. You need to really prioritize drills, and you need to do as little normal swings as humanly possible when you practice. So, okay, let's talk about his practice in a nutshell. What he did to start off with. He would always do 15 minutes at every beginning of every session. He would do 15 minutes of really exaggerated slow swings. So he was really trying to keep his upper body down and flexing, getting that left hip moving back. What's that working on? That's working on the second portion of the roadmap. That's working on, of course, the visual, the effect. And he's trying to exaggerate it. For 15 minutes he did this at every single session. And then what did he do from there after that? He did the same thing, but with a golf ball. So he would work on this really, and straight away afterwards, that same exaggeration, but just chipping a golf ball down there, and really was just chipping it down, because he has hitting the golf ball. It's adding that different stimulus to where it's going to coordinate him a little bit better, because of course we can do it without a golf ball really, really nicely. Why we can do it without a golf ball? Because there's no target. So this is introducing a golf ball, but because you're just chipping it, you're not necessarily hitting it to a target, but it's just giving you that extra little chance to get this really ingrained in the brain. So really getting that left hip back, that pelvis down, just letting that ball get in the way. Don't care where it goes, just hitting something there. And then what he did after that was drills. So the drill he specifically did was working on the preset rotation drill, which we talk about a lot on the channel here, where you get into an impact position, where you have your hips open as much as you can, chest open as much as you can, weight 90% on that left side, and then having your right shoulder down to your right hip. And he would start from here and swing back in a half swing, and then back through the shot again. It really keeps you in your posture really nicely, and really makes you have a perfect move going through impact. Really, really important there. So again, what is that doing? That's working on the effect, the visual. That's part 2. Now, luckily for David, he didn't have too many things in his golf swing causing him to early extend. His was one of the rare cases of where he was just a player that was moving forward. Maybe his body wanted to create power via more vertical force, so his early extension would happen. So we just needed to train the movement in there. But like I said, David isn't the only one that we've fixed this with. It's been plenty and plenty of students, as you can see from the before and afters here, and we've all done the early extension method of working on root cause first. So we're going to get into another little practice session after talking about what David did here, which has the root cause in it as well to practice on. But exactly what he did, tons and tons of that drill in a practice session. So he really hammered home this drill to get his body moving. And he was recording himself on the camera on pretty much every single shot to see whether he was staying in his posture. Nice, slow and smooth swings to start off with, and building it up. Now he did that working through the bag all the way up. He did that with driver as well. But what did he do after that? He did a few normal swings, but really exaggerated. So he still hit swings without a drill, but he exaggerated as much as he can with a fairly normal speed, a little bit slower, let's say around a 70% speed. So this is where golfers, again, where they go wrong with their practice is they try and work on things with just their brain, just their conscious mind, and they try to do it pretty much full speed. Never gonna make a change doing that. So this is where David will just have a few swings at the end of his practice. Let's say 10 swings is roughly what he did. And then really exaggerating it as much as he could. And then he would end his practice. But in between those swings, what was he doing? Exaggerated practice swings again. Do a bunch of those and then moving into the shot and then hitting it again. Slightly slow, but very exaggerated. And that's what he did. So you can see, monotonous, boring maybe. But if you really want to change your golf swing fast, that is exactly how you do it. So let's get into another little practice session here, but adding in the root cause to what you can practice also. So let's devise a little bit of a practice routine that you guys can use here. Because as we said, David's one didn't have the root cause part of it because luckily enough, we just need to train the pattern for him. But for you guys out there, you will absolutely have a root cause reason. So let's talk about those two root causes we gave in the example here. So let's talk about one, the steep shaft. How are we gonna work on fixing the steep shaft to then fix the root cause and work on the effect and good practice routine? So, okay, like we said, a lot of golfers who are steep in the shaft, their right elbow starts to point behind them in a downswing, getting that internal shoulder rotation, that will steepen it. So for those golfers, they need to get the opposite in there. They need the right elbow to move in front, and that is that more externally rotated trail shoulder. So just like my student David did, we want to work on some practice swings at the start. So we want to work on this with a little bit of a root cause flair to it. So this is where I want you to do a drill for these golfers called the nunchuck drill. This is working on this problem exactly. So we grab the club by the club head, we have the club shaft come down the right side of the right forearm, and we grip it with the left hand. So then we get up to the top of the swing, and then what we do from there, we move and rotate in that downswing, get that pelvis going back, getting the upper body moving down, but we're also pulling the grip in front of us, which is pulling that trail shoulder into more external rotation, which is getting that elbow pointing in front. So you can imagine, just like my student was doing his practice swings, we could do a bunch of these just beforehand to really get one, the shoulder loosened up a little bit, but also really exaggerating this problem. You're gonna feel whether you're stiff in your shoulder mobility by doing this also, and this is a great stretch for it. So doing a bunch of those beforehand. Again, if you wanted to go as much as, let's say, extremely as my student did, you could do 15 minutes of that at the beginning. Don't have to go that much, but again, he fixed it in 1 month. So if you really wants to fix it a lot, that's how you would do it. So, okay, now hitting golf balls. What we want to do with this, grab something like a ball training aid. So I'm using a very, very old impact ball here, because why this is good for this problem is because if I have that elbow move away, that more internally rotated shoulder position, it drops to the ground. So that's where what I want to do, I want to feel that exact same feeling as the nunchuck drill, but keep this in between my arms and do some half chippy swings, just keeping this in my arms because I have to have that elbow drive a little bit more in. So here we go. Boom. Really, really nice. So you can imagine if I could do that a ton, what am I working on? I'm working a little bit on the effect, keeping my posture, but I'm also working on the root cause. Now a drill to fix the early extension visual whilst working on the root cause. This is how you do it. So we've got the chair and we've got the ball training aid in between the arms. So this is working on the root cause, this is working on the effect. In a downswing, I want to push this chair as much back as I can, and I want to keep this ball in between my arms. There we go. So you can imagine if I was doing that for a ton of practice session, I'm working on root cause, I'm working on visual, I would do that for the vast majority of all my practice session, and then I'll move on to normal shots. So for this golfer, we would want to make it so we're really feeling the exaggerated practice swings beforehand, or really getting that elbow in front and really flexing that body down. And then we want to do some 70% swings, trying to feel that again, just a sprinkling of them. So doing exactly that, boom, then moving through. and we want to just do those sprinkling of shots doing that. Exaggerated practice swings before every shot and exaggerate it as much as you can with the golf ball. But at the end of the practice session, don't gauge your practice of how successful it is by how those swings look. Those swings are going to get better and better at the end from you just practicing more and more. So that's where keep working on those. You'll see those improve over time. And now if I was a golfer who had their right hip move forward in the backswing and then continue to move forward in the downswing, which is their root cause reason to early extension, this is actually a really easy one to fix. So you have to have actually less steps to be able to fix this. So still the same thing with our practice swings beforehand, really get that right hip moving back and really get that left hip moving back, really exaggerate the movement. So again, doing a good 15 minutes of that would be absolutely ideal. It's not overkill. You will be absolutely really speeding up your progress massively if you did that, but really exaggerate that right hip pushing back. Got to feel crazy doing it. So you've got to almost feel like when you're doing the exaggerations, like you're almost falling backwards and then doing the same thing in the downswing, almost falling backwards. So it's like if you had a wall behind you, for example, and you're obviously standing quite a bit away from the wall, you want to try and hit the wall with your hip in the backswing and the exaggeration and try and do the same thing in the downswing. Give yourself something to shoot for. And of course, then going into a ball, you could do those exact same exaggerations, just little chippy ones. Again, look how much I moved back. I fell backwards. Doesn't matter where you hit it when you do these. You just really want to exaggerate as much as you can. So again, fell backwards because I exaggerated it so much. Now the early extension visual fix drill will actually help you with the root cause as well, using a chair. So you can push the chair back in the backswing, which is fixing the root cause for this golfer, and then pushing it in the downswing, which is then working on fixing the visual or the effect of early extension. So nice easy one here. So that's why I said it's actually quite easy to fix early extension if you know what the root cause is. For this golfer, especially so. So push it back, and then in the backswing, the right hip, push it back with the left hip in the downswing. So again, doesn't have to be massive full swings to start off with, just repping this out. And again, doing vast majority of all your practice throughout the bag, and then you're going to be really in a good spot doing it. Boom. Okay, so absolutely brilliant one, of course. Then what do we do after that? Some normal swings, exaggerating. So okay, what do we want to do beforehand? Really getting that right hip pushing back, left hip pushing back as much as you can as a practice swing. Really getting a lot of them in. I'd recommend 3 to 5 of those. And then hitting for your 10 balls, that same feeling. Really exaggerating it. So you can see how much I exaggerated that. I was really in that left heel going always spinning round. Do that for 10 balls, again, little sprinkling. Then you gauge that as your improvement as time goes on. The early sessions aren't gonna look all that different at all. The shots probably won't be that great at the beginning, but you've got to continue to practice it. So if you enjoyed this video, click that like button if you want more golf instruction just like this. Hit the subscribe button and hit that bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video.